Have you ever had a crush that felt, well, bigger than a crush? Like way more intense? An all-consuming obsession that has you replaying these tiny little moments over and over in your head? Well, we're going to dive into that powerful and, let's be honest, often painful experience known as limerence.
You know, it's funny, it almost always starts with something so small you could miss it. A quick conversation by the coffee machine, an accidental glance across a room, a shared laugh over a dumb joke. It's not some big dramatic movie moment, but somehow it feels just as huge, right? It just burns itself into your memory and becomes the seed for a whole internal world. And sure, you can have this kind of feeling for a celebrity you'll never meet, but limerence gets really, truly overwhelming when the person is right there in your day-to-day life. You see them, you hear their voice, and their actual physical presence makes the fantasy feel, well, just within reach, tantalizingly possible. And that leads to the one single thought that fuels this whole thing. Maybe. Maybe that look meant something. Maybe they're just shy. Maybe, just maybe, this could actually go somewhere. That little word maybe becomes the engine for the entire experience.
So what is actually going on inside our heads when this happens? Well, the first big psychological driver is this intense tug of war between what we hope is true and the cold, hard facts of reality. There's a name for this. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's that uncomfortable, staticky feeling you get when you believe one thing, like we have this deep, special connection, but all the evidence around you is screaming something totally different, like a complete lack of interest from them. And this right here is where that internal battle really gets going. On your side, you've got this beautiful, detailed story written in your mind. And on their side, there's the stark reality. They might not even know the story has begun. That massive gap between those two things, that's where all the pain comes from.
And living in that gap day after day, it's just devastating for your self-worth. You start to turn it inward. You think, if they don't see this incredible connection I feel, then something must be wrong with me. You end up measuring your own value against a fantasy that isn't being reflected back at you.
Okay, so if it hurts so much, why is it so incredibly hard to just let it go? It seems like it should be simple, right? Well, this brings us to a second, really powerful psychological bias that we all share. It's a concept called loss aversion. The groundbreaking work by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed that for our brains, the pain of losing $20 feels way, way worse than the pleasure of finding $20. We are literally hardwired to avoid loss, and that creates a huge snag when it comes to limerence. Yeah, get this. The research suggests the pain of a loss is felt roughly twice as intensely as the joy of an equivalent gain. Our brains will do anything to avoid that feeling. But this creates a huge problem in limerence, because what exactly are we so afraid of losing? I mean, this lyric just nails the paradox, doesn't it? We get absolutely terrified of losing a relationship that, when you get right down to it, only exists as a possibility inside our own heads. We're afraid of the book closing before it's even really been opened.
So here's the crucial point. The fear isn't about protecting some real, precious relationship. It's about defending the fragile idea of maybe from becoming the finality of nothing. And that's why we hold on so tight, just pouring all our energy into protecting this illusion.
So you've got this internal conflict, this deep fear of loss, and now let's just add one more amplifier into the mix. That constant nagging worry that you're about to miss your one and only chance.
You've definitely heard of FOMO, probably from social media, right? But it is such a powerful driver in limerence. It's that constant fear that something's going to happen in their life. Maybe they'll meet someone else, and it's going to shatter your fantasy for good.
This becomes the soundtrack to your life. It's this endless, exhausting loop of what-ifs that keeps your brain on high alert, 24/7, constantly scanning for threats and opportunities to your fantasy.
And let's be clear, this is not just harmless daydreaming. Living with this constant anxiety has very real, very negative impacts. It literally puts your own life on standby mode. You stop acting for yourself and start just reacting to them. Your own life just kind of fades into the background. But here's the good news. Understanding these psychological forces, cognitive dissonance, loss aversion, FOMO, that is the first and most critical step toward breaking free. So what's the big takeaway from all this? You have to remember, these incredibly intense feelings are being generated by your own internal patterns. It's an inner construction. It feels like it's about them, or a real relationship,
or a real threat, but it's actually about the story you've built inside your own mind.
Because when it's all said and done, when you look back on it, you realize the deepest, longest-lasting pain, it doesn't come from getting a clear answer, whether that's a yes or a no.
The true source of the suffering is the uncertainty. It's that limbo, that in-between space where hope is kept on life support against all logic. The pain is born and it grows in that eternal maybe.
And that brings us to one final thought. Limerence puts your real life on hold for a fantasy. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What maybe are you clinging to? And what parts of your real, actual life is it keeping you from living?
Now, if this really resonated with you and you want to dive a little deeper, the source for this explainer is the book Loving an Illusion by Anne Skye. There's also a really supportive community called Limerence Pathfinders on the Skool platform. And that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining me.